What's going on, everybody? It's Tyler from Dirt Road Country. I'm joined by a very special guest. He's getting ready to put out his first song since 2023. He's a great solo artist, and it's called Growing Up. Timothy Baker joins me. Timothy, welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a good morning so far. My wife and I have a little 8-month-old little boy, and so we always joke now that like we have the world's cutest alarm clock because he loves to wake up a little bit earlier than we would prefer, but you know, it gets it's a good start to the morning.
How early?
So today it was 7. Some days it's 6, and then anywhere between 6 and 7. So on any given day, depending on how much, if he feels like he's had his needed sleep, then it's either 6 or 6:30, something like that. So we just
Well,
roll with it.
he's just getting started in growing up, and you grew
That's
up.
right.
If it were up to Peter Pan, we'd never grow up, but
That's exactly right.
I don't know if you're like that. I feel like I'm like that. Never grow up is kind of like a catchphrase. You gotta have fun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
Mm-hmm.
you have this song coming out, how does it feel having a new song out in the world? And what was the inspiration behind putting this one out first?
Man, it is such a good feeling. I moved to Nashville in 2018, and then um had sort of averaged like putting out one song a year for a few years. And this song, I wrote this back in 2020, and it's been one of my favorite songs that I've ever written since then. And so I'm just stoked that the world gets to hear it. I've put out different versions since I wrote it, like on YouTube and stuff. But to officially have like a recorded version that can be on streaming services, it's just a good feeling. It just feels good to get this stuff out in the world. And so it was January of 2020. I just got back from visiting my folks up in Kentucky for Christmas, and I remember that I had the day off. I didn't have like a gig or anything scheduled, and my wife was at work, and I was planning to just try to get a song written that day. At that point, I'd just mostly been writing by myself. Hadn't really met a ton of co-writers in Nashville, and I just remember I had these like 3 or 4 lines that I typed on my phone months previously, and it was just this like sort of nostalgic image that I had in my head. So the lines were, "My mom is yelling from the front porch, supper's ready. I can hear it clear across the creek. There's a couple old dogs following me and daddy, picking blackberries in the July heat." And so I just sang that into my phone one day, like maybe in September of 2019. And this day in 2020 that I was sitting down to write a song, I was digging back through my phone. I found those lines and I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. And then it sort of like took shape from there. And basically it was just um, I used that to springboard into like this whole feeling of just like remembering how good stuff was when I was younger, and like now I was living on my, like, I was away from home, and I was trying to pay the bills any way that I could, through music and stuff. And it was just like I had what I call the black cloud of adulting just hanging over my head, of just the bills that never end. And one of the biggest things too was that when I got back here to Nashville from Kentucky, um, I realized that that trip, when I saw my parents, it had been like 5 or 6 months since I'd seen them, and they looked noticeably older. And so that really just hit me hard because I never necessarily like wrestled with that of just like, man, it's been so long since I've been home that like my parents, like I can tell that they're getting older, and it just had an effect on me. So, anyways, that song just became exactly what I was feeling in that moment. And when I got done with it, I remember just like listening back to it and be like, man, like that's one of the most like personal things that I've ever written, because it was just a true reflection of my heart at that moment. But as months went by and I would play it out and stuff, I realized like how universal of a concept that is. Because I feel like every single person, like I've written love songs that I feel like are relatable and stuff like that. But I think every single person to some extent knows what it's like to be growing up and doing adult things and all the stuff that comes with that, and then you sort of miss. You're like, man, I wish I would have enjoyed my youth a little bit more, you know?
Also, in kind of in the world we're living in today, where everything's changing a lot more rapidly. I was watching. I'll throw what I was doing last night. I was watching. If you ever seen 17 again with Zac
Oh
Efron,
yeah, yeah,
was watching that
yeah,
last night, and they're like doing the flashbacks to the '80s and what high school was like back then, and then what high school was like in like 2009 when it came out. It's like, man, time just keeps marching on.
yeah. It
This
doesn't
time,
stop, man.
this time it's kind of like, is it marching on for the better because the world's a different
Right.
place now. You got all the
Yeah.
kids on their
Yeah.
phones and all that stuff. It's
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like even for like us as adults and stuff, it's like I look like, and for like what we do, it's sort of a necessity, like, being on your phone and just having to do social media and stuff like that, like it's a necessity. But then I think back to just like when you're young and then you're just, you're outside all the time and just sort of enjoying life and not necessarily feeling like you're tied to all this different stuff and just like, that responsibility aspect of stuff. But yeah, it's true. It's like it just keeps going. Nothing you can do about it.
well, speaking of growing up, you spent a lot of time posting YouTube videos throughout the years. I know I remember seeing your videos maybe 10, 12 years ago, and you've been doing this for a long time. Who were some of those influences that got you into music and wanted you to post those videos on YouTube and get into it as a career?
Yeah, man. So the cool thing is like I grew up. So I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I grew up playing bluegrass music. My dad, my sister, and I had a bluegrass gospel family band, and so that was sort of how I spent the first half of my life. At this point, at least the first half of my life, playing bluegrass. And so initially, a lot of what I listened to was like Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder and Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver. A group called Blue Highway, and then Alison Krauss and Union Station were probably my biggest influences early on. I grew up playing the mandolin first, and so that's why like guys like Ricky Skaggs and Doyle Lawson and that were some of my first like just I just idolized them and loved everything that they put out. And then as I got a little bit older, my sister went off to college, and I was sort of playing by myself a little bit more because we weren't playing as much as a family. And so I picked up the guitar, and at that point, I really got influenced by another bluegrass player, a guitar player named Tony Rice. And Tony is sort of known in the bluegrass world as sort of like the most influential guitar player that's ever played bluegrass. He just sort of changed the way that people thought about playing guitar. And so I remember just spending a couple years digging into his stuff and so between those early bluegrass influences and then also like discovering my dad's CD collection. My dad's always had a great eclectic taste in music, and he just had so many CDs that I could just like rifle through when I was younger. And I had a little portable CD player that I would take on car trips. And so I would just sort of pick the 5 or 6 that I wanted to bring. That would be my playlist stuff. And so through that, I discovered that's like how I discovered Keith Whitley's music. That's how I discovered George Strait and Brooks and Dunn and those I specifically remember some of those CDs that just like sort of the light went off, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, man, like I was young, but I was still connecting to these songs. And so that was sort of the conglomerate. It was the early bluegrass stuff, a lot of Tony Rice, plus Keith Whitley, George Strait, and all that '90s country stuff that I was discovering when I was, at that point I was probably 10, 11, 12. And so um, that was sort of that mix was really what got me into that transition from bluegrass to country. And so I was in high school and had some friends that knew that I played guitar, and they were like, "Hey, you should record, like you should learn some covers and record videos and then put them on YouTube." And that was a foreign concept to me. I remember YouTube being a thing that had been around for just a few years at that point. It wasn't this huge thing that it is now. And so I was reluctant, but I followed their advice, and I was like, sure, I'll learn some songs. And then that was sort of a really cool segue for me into actually realizing that, oh, maybe there's more to this than just like
Yeah.
something that's fun. That's just something I could do in my spare time, And so I started my YouTube channel. I started posting videos. I would get a little bit more consistent with it as I went through high school, and then I would just take the songs that I love that were on the radio. So like my like heyday of YouTube, I would say, was like between 2013 and 2015 or so. And so you can tell that because a lot of the songs that I covered back then were songs that would like become hits on the radio in that span of time. And so it's just cool. It's like a little time capsule to have to look back on and just watch myself grow up.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned all these great artists that you listened to growing up. Do you have like a Mount Rushmore of your favorite albums?
Ooh, ooh, yeah. So, do you remember when there was this trend that was going on online, and it was this, it was this
I know
picture
exactly what
of,
you're talking
it
was
was the picture of Bill Clinton. He had like the thing, and he has like these albums, and you could just put your own favorites in there. So I remember doing that, and based off of that, I think that's pretty much stayed. It's pretty much stayed the same. So for me, um, I would say my Mount Rushmore. Um, that's four, right?
Yes.
I, we'll go with that. I think that's right. So for me, I would say it would be the Alison Krauss and Union Station live uh,
Oh, that's such a
record.
that's my cousin's favorite album.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. And then I remember getting the like live show DVD of that and just being able to see how the guys were playing the different parts. That just totally blew my mind because that just opened new doors. So that would be number one, or at least first in order of this. And then I would also do the "Oh Brother Where Art Thou" movie soundtrack because that was just such when I was 6 years old when that movie came out, but it just played. It was just such a pivotal thing in my music journey because it was just so like it was. I remember just listening to that on repeat, the whole CD. Um, and then I would have to put the George. So these answers with especially this one is sort of like a cop out, I guess, but the George Strait 50 number ones. Um, so it covers a lot of bases, but that's just so that was one of the ones that my dad had. My dad had that two disc 50 number ones CD, and I would just wear it out. There were three songs that I loved on there more than others. The big one, Check Yes or No, and I Hate Everything were my three favorite George Strait songs when I was like 9 years old. And then my last, I would say my Mount Rushmore in this sense would be Brad Paisley's Mud on the Tires. And so I'm looking at this from a standpoint of like at least the albums that shaped me, um, both as I was growing up listening to bluegrass and then also when I first started writing songs because I think that Mud on the Tires CD, my dad put that in my Christmas stocking one year. And I remember listening to it when I was first starting to write songs, maybe 14, 15 years old. And that was my basis of like, okay, well, this makes sense to me. Like these songs tell a story. The hooks are great. Some of them are funny, which like I even liked even more. And and so then that sort of that album sort of helped me figure out how to write a country song. So that I would put those four right there.
I love that. Do you have like a top three favorite songs on Mud on the Tires? Because it's just such a good album.
It's such yeah. So okay, so my I would go number three. Let's see here. Number three, I would put his version of "Is It Raining at Your House," which I think is just a great cover of that song. It's actually the first time I'd ever heard that song. I'd never heard Vern's original. Um, and then number two, I would say, is actually "Mud on the Tires." Um, And then my top favorite on that album is The Best Thing That I Had Going. I put that song as sort of my that's sort of like my sonic roadmap. I
Yeah.
love how that song starts out just as a bluegrass instrumentation. It's like totally acoustic, and then when the after the first chorus hits and it's the solo part, um, Brad's guitar comes in, the drums come in. It's just like a full country thing, and so yeah, that's my top three. It's hard. It's hard to pick because from front to back, it's such a
I know.
killer album.
Whiskey Lullaby, Celebrity,
I know, dude.
Little Moments. Is that on that album?
I think it is.
It
I
is.
I think it might be. And then like this, some of those deep cuts.
Ain't Nothing
Um,
Like
Ain't Nothing Like such a good
Somebody
song.
Knows You Now.
Yes, yes,
I don't know. I don't know what else there is. There's just so many good songs. There's a song. I don't know if you ever heard this. Are you familiar with the album before that one, part two?
yes.
All right. Well, there's this song on there. It's 6 minutes long, and I had never heard it before. Like I don't remember hearing it. I don't. I haven't listened to part two that many times, and I went
Right.
through it like a few months ago, and I think it was called "I Wish You'd Stay" or "I Wish
Yes,
You Would." Say. Oh my gosh,
yes. Man,
that's
that is that's such a good song. I don't remember. I can't remember if that one was released as a single. I know that they did a music video for it, and
good. I got
but
that out.
that's one of those. That's one of those like most like casual people would maybe consider that like a deep cut. Um, and but dude, that song is so good. It's so good, and I think that's one of my that is one of my favorite songs on that part two album. I was just listening a couple days ago. My favorites were on that record, the first song, 2 Feet of Topsoil, and then there was a song that I always loved. It was like two of the more like tongue in cheek songs. Um, the song called "Come On Over Tonight."
Yeah,
They're just fun and like that's just that Brad humor thing that he always threw in
yeah.
there. Um, yeah, so I wish you'd stay is such a it's just
That opening
that's like
night,
peak.
like the 90-second opening orchestra piece is like insane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just don't know what's coming. It kind of
They
reminds me of like the opening to Going Home by Keith Whitley. You think it's like a
yeah,
ballad, then it's like a rock song.
right. Then they totally switch gears on you. It's such a yeah,
But yeah,
such a cool move.
there's another one on his first album called In the Garden. I don't know if that was a single or not.
Yes.
That like ending fiddle piece is
Yes. So I think what always intrigued me about his, of like Brad's stuff from the very beginning, it was so well thought out because if you have a chance sometime and you listen, so he would end all of his albums with a gospel song, and so with the very first record, it was In the Garden, and then if you listen to how it fades out with the fiddle solo, the very first song on part two is 2 Feet of Topsoil. It starts out with basically the fade in of that same fiddle solo. Da 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 da. It goes to the four chord, and then it goes don 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 don. Da, da, da. So it's basically like you could almost those records flow seamlessly from the end of record one to the start of part two because it's they like use the same outro of In the Garden to then open to 2 Feet of Topsoil, and it's genius.
all right. I know the first thing I'm doing after this interview. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. It's so yeah. Anybody out there that's listening that just likes those little nuggets or the little Easter egg things, I remember, like I listened to his stuff all out of order. Like the
Oh,
first
wow.
CD was the third one, and so then I remember going back and like finding part two and finding Who Needs Pictures, and then listening to the end of that first record and being like, wait a second. When I started part two, I was like, oh, it was just like such a cool idea. Whoever, if it was Frank Rogers' idea, if it was Brad's or somebody's, like that was a nice move. It was a nice move.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now for you going forward, we still got a couple months of summer left. Hopefully it doesn't fly by because I'm enjoying nice weather.
I know,
With
I
growing
know,
up
same.
coming out, what's next for you after that and shows and music and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, man. So it's been it's been cool to sort of like this whole first half of this year has just been a refocusing for me, and so like looking at this song coming out, I've got some like out of town things that I'll be doing at the end, like the end of summer, early fall, um, and just sort of pushing, like this. I really want to try to give this song its proper due. I feel like in the past, especially as like promoting music has changed so much in the last couple of years since I put out music. It's just a lot of like me, both um, like I love playing like the songwriter rounds here in Nashville, the listening room and places like that. Because I feel like it gives a song like Growing Up its chance to shine. I feel like sometimes like I'm used to playing these more like either they're cover gigs or they're just like fair and festival gigs where it sometimes feels almost like it's a little bit hard to kind of stop the energy a little bit, and like Growing Up is one of those introspective songs. And so anyways, all that being said, I have like a lineup of some shows coming up through the end of the fall that I'm really looking forward to. There's a gig that I played in the northern part of Indiana that I've played for the last probably 3 or 4 years, I guess now. And so I'm coming back for that again in the fall. But yeah, it's just like any of the stuff. I play in Nashville a few different times a week here and there. And then, like I said, I've sort of gotten back into playing some of the songwriter rounds here in town. And it's just cool. It's just going to be so much fun to be able to say like, this you can listen to this song now, because for the last 5 years I've just been able to say like this song's unreleased but hopefully it'll be out sometime. But there's definitely plans for new music beyond Growing Up as well. With this, my goal, my goal was to just sort of uh, take out all the excuses that I've made for myself in the past when it comes to releasing music. It can be easy to be like, well, either A, I don't have enough money saved up for what this would require, or B, it's just like, I don't know, like, is this the right song? There's just so many different things that you can send yourself down this rabbit hole. And so in this case, I was like, well, like, I have a vision for how I want this, like, this song to sound like on the acoustic end. And it would be very, very simple to get with a buddy that I know that is a great engineer and just knock this out. And then if it become like my framework with this was like, I'm going to do an acoustic version. If it becomes of a more fully produced thing later on, that's cool. But for now, I feel like this is how I've always heard this song, and it's how I've played this song for the last 5 years. So this is the most like raw, honest version of Growing Up that you can get. So I feel like there might be some more of those coming down the pipeline too. And I've got some fun things in the works for this coming year, both in regards to new music and new songs that'll be coming out. So I'm excited. I'm um, sort of keeping an open mind to like any opportunities that come my way over the course of the next few months and stuff. And it's just exciting. I've loved this song for so long, and I'm glad that it finally gets out
Well,
into the world and that people can listen to it.
yes, it is out July 25th. That may be
Yeah.
hey at the moment we're talking. It's probably going to be release day.
That's right.
If you don't follow Timothy on Instagram and TikTok and all the other social media platforms, you can go find him on. Highly recommend you should do it right now because he's putting out great real country music. It is traditional gold, as a lot of people would say, including myself. It's great stuff. Like I said, Grown Up out now. Timothy, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I love what you do with the page and all these interviews and stuff. And I'm a fan of what you do. So I just appreciate you letting me be a part of it.
Man, I appreciate all the support and always enjoy watching your journey as an artist. You've been putting out great stuff for years. Like I said, if you don't follow Timothy, you should because he's got great content, great music, and yeah, go listen to Growing Up. Timothy, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, man.